The first signal. The night was quiet, but in the heart of a vast observatory, a small team of scientists was hard at work. Dr. Claire Mason, a young and brilliant astrophysicist, sat at her desk, staring at a stream of data flowing across her screen. For weeks, she and her team had been monitoring strange radio waves from deep space. At first, the signals were faint and irregular, dismissed as random cosmic noise. But tonight was different. Suddenly, Claire's computer pinged. Her heart skipped a beat. The signal had returned, stronger and more structured than ever before. She leaned closer, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The pattern was unmistakable. This wasn't random. It was a message. "Claire, are you seeing this?" Her colleague, Ravi Patel, asked from across the room. He had been analyzing the same data and looked equally stunned. "It's a repeating sequence," Claire replied, her voice trembling. "And it's not natural. Someone, or something, is trying to communicate with us." The team quickly gathered around Claire's workstation. They worked in silence, decoding the signal bit by bit. As the hours passed, the room grew heavy with tension. Finally, the message became clear. The words sent chills down their spines. "They are coming." "Who's coming?" Ravi whispered, his voice barely audible. No one answered. The room felt colder, the weight of those 3 words pressing down on everyone. By morning, the discovery had reached the ears of the government. A convoy of black SUVs arrived at the observatory, and men in suits stormed the building. Claire and her team were escorted into a secure meeting room, where high-ranking officials demanded answers. "You're telling us aliens sent this message?" one of the officials asked, his tone skeptical. "We're not sure who sent it," Claire admitted, "but the message is clear. Someone knows about Earth, and they're on their way." "Why now? Why Earth?" another official pressed. "We don't know," Ravi interjected, his frustration evident. "But the signal's strength suggests it's from within our galaxy, maybe even our own solar system." The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. If the signal was real, Earth was no longer alone. Worse, it was being watched. As news of the signal leaked, panic spread. Social media exploded with wild theories. Some believed it was a prank, others claimed it was the end of the world. Governments around the globe scrambled to control the narrative, but the truth was too big to hide. In a small apartment in New York City, a college student live-streamed her reaction to the news. "Guys, what if they're friendly? What if they just want to say hi?" she asked her viewers. But in a remote military bunker, world leaders weren't so optimistic. They knew the universe was vast and dangerous. History showed that when an advanced civilization encountered a less developed one, it often ended in conquest. "Prepare for the worst," the President of the United States said during an emergency meeting. "But we need more information before we act." Meanwhile, Claire continued her research, determined to uncover more about the signal. She spent days without sleep, poring over the data, searching for clues. Then, one evening, she noticed something odd. Hidden within the signal was another message, one she hadn't noticed before. She decoded it slowly, her hands shaking. The new message was even more chilling than the first. Category red, resistance unlikely. "What does that mean?" Ravi asked when Claire showed him. "It's a classification," Claire replied, her voice hollow. "They've already assessed us. They think we're weak, easy to conquer." Ravi's face paled. "This isn't just a warning. It's a declaration of intent." As the days passed, tensions rose. Claire and her team worked tirelessly to track the source of the signal. They believed it was coming from the outer edge of the solar system. Then, one fateful night, their suspicions were confirmed. A satellite orbiting Neptune picked up a live feed of something. The part ends with Claire standing before a camera, ready to broadcast the truth to the world. As she speaks, her voice is steady but resolute. "To everyone watching this, listen carefully. They are coming, and we must be ready." The unseen messenger. The world was reeling from Claire's broadcast. Across continents, streets were filled with protests, prayer gatherings, and chaotic debates about humanity's future. The governments had no time to calm the storm. Satellites detected the fleet closing in. Panic turned to terror when a single unmarked object broke away from the fleet and headed straight for Earth. The object wasn't a ship. It was a sleek, cylindrical pod, about the size of a bus, glowing faintly with a blue light. It descended silently, defying gravity, and landed in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Within hours, military convoys surrounded the pod. Cameras broadcasted the event lived to billions around the world. Tanks and drones formed a protective circle as soldiers cautiously approached the mysterious object. Then, without warning, the pod opened. A single figure emerged. It was humanoid but unmistakably alien. The being stood tall, with translucent, pale skin that shimmered under the harsh desert sun. Its eyes were large and unblinking, glowing faintly like twin moons. The thin silver suit covered its body, and it carried no visible weapons. The alien raised a hand, a universal gesture of peace, and spoke in flawless English. "I am Servok, an envoy of the Galactic Empire. I come bearing a message for your leaders." The voice was calm, but carried an unsettling weight. Earth's leaders quickly convened, rushing to the site under heavy security. Inside a massive, hastily erected tent, Servok stood at the center of a round table, surrounded by humanity's most powerful figures. Claire Mason had been invited as a scientific consultant, her warnings about the signal giving her a seat at the table. "You have been found," Servok began, his tone devoid of emotion. "The Galactic Empire has deemed your planet to be of interest. You have two choices: submit and join the Empire as a subjugated colony, or resist and face annihilation." His words hung in the air like a death sentence. "What does submit mean?" asked the President of the United States, breaking the heavy silence. "Your resources, your technology, your people, all will serve the Empire," Servok explained. "You will lose your sovereignty, but some of you may survive. Resistance, however, guarantees extinction. Your planet will be scorched, its ashes left as a warning to others." Claire couldn't stay silent any longer. "Why Earth? Why now?" she demanded. Servok's glowing eyes shifted to her, studying her carefully. "Earth is insignificant, a mere dot in the vast tapestry of the galaxy. But your species has a peculiar trait: resilience. The Empire finds such resilience troublesome if left unchecked. So we're a threat to you." Claire pressed, her voice growing bolder. "You are a potential threat," Servok corrected. "But your kind is fragmented and weak. That is why you are categorized as resistance unlikely. A single display of submission will save you. Refuse, and you will be eradicated before you become a problem." The room erupted into chaos. Some leaders advocated surrender, arguing that survival was more important than pride. Others, fueled by anger and defiance, swore to fight, even if it meant the end. Amid the shouting, Claire noticed something peculiar about Servok. His calm demeanor faltered for a brief moment, a flicker of hesitation crossing his alien features. Was he bluffing? Or did the Empire fear humanity more than they let on? Claire decided to take a risk. "And if we don't decide?" she asked. "What then?" Servok's voice turned cold. "You have 7 Earth days. At the end of this period, the Empire will arrive in full force. Your fate is your choice." As Servok prepared to leave, Claire made another bold move. "You came alone," she said, stepping forward. "Why? If we're so insignificant, why send you instead of destroying us outright?" For the first time, Servok seemed to struggle for words. The Empire does not waste resources. A single envoy is sufficient for a species of your stage. But Claire saw through the deflection. "Or maybe you're not as invincible as you claim," she said quietly, her voice laced with defiance. Servok turned to leave, ignoring her comment. He stepped back into his pod, which ascended silently into the sky. Within seconds, it was gone, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air. The unseen messenger. The world was reeling from Claire's broadcast. Across continents, streets were filled with protests, prayer gatherings, and chaotic debates about humanity's future. The governments had no time to calm the storm. Satellites detected the fleet closing in. Panic turned to terror when a single unmarked object broke away from the fleet and headed straight for Earth. The object wasn't a ship. It was a sleek, cylindrical pod, about the size of a bus, glowing faintly with a blue light. It descended silently, defying gravity, and landed in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Within hours, military convoys surrounded the pod. Cameras broadcasted the event lived to billions around the world. Tanks and drones formed a protective circle as soldiers cautiously approached the mysterious object. Then, without warning, the pod opened. A single figure emerged. It was humanoid but unmistakably alien. The being stood tall, with translucent, pale skin that shimmered under the harsh desert sun. Its eyes were large and unblinking, glowing faintly like twin moons. A thin silver suit covered its body, and it carried no visible weapons. The alien raised a hand, a universal gesture of peace, and spoke in flawless English. "I am Servok, an envoy of the Galactic Empire. I come bearing a message for your leaders." The voice was calm but carried an unsettling weight. Earth's leaders quickly convened, rushing to the site under heavy security. Inside a massive, hastily erected tent, Servok stood at the center of a round table, surrounded by humanity's most powerful figures. Claire Mason had been invited as a scientific consultant, her warnings about the signal giving her a seat at the table. "You have been found," Servok began, his tone devoid of emotion. "The Galactic Empire has deemed your planet to be of interest. You have two choices: submit and join the Empire as a subjugated colony, or resist and face annihilation." His words hung in the air like a death sentence. "What does submit mean?" asked the President of the United States, breaking the heavy silence. "Your resources, your technology, your people, all will serve the Empire," Servok explained. "You will lose your sovereignty, but some of you may survive. Resistance, however, guarantees extinction. Your planet will be scorched, its ashes left as a warning to others." Claire couldn't stay silent any longer. "Why Earth? Why now?" she demanded. Servok's glowing eyes shifted to her, studying her carefully. "Earth is insignificant, a mere dot in the vast tapestry of the galaxy. But your species has a peculiar trait: resilience. The Empire finds such resilience troublesome if left unchecked. So we're a threat to you." Claire pressed, her voice growing bolder. "You are a potential threat," Servok corrected. "But your kind is fragmented and weak. That is why you are categorized as resistance unlikely. A single display of submission will save you. Refuse, and you will be eradicated before you become a problem." The room erupted into chaos. Some leaders advocated surrender, arguing that survival was more important than pride. Others, fueled by anger and defiance, swore to fight, even if it meant the end. Amid the shouting, Claire noticed something peculiar about Servok. His calm demeanor faltered for a brief moment, a flicker of hesitation crossing his alien features. Was he bluffing? Or did the Empire fear humanity more than they let on? Claire decided to take a risk. "And if we don't decide?" she asked. "What then?" Servok's voice turned cold. "You have 7 Earth days. At the end of this period, the Empire will arrive in full force. Your fate is your choice." As Servok prepared to leave, Claire made another bold move. "You came alone," she said, stepping forward. "Why? If we're so insignificant, why send you instead of destroying us outright?" For the first time, Servok seemed to struggle for words. The Empire does not waste resources. A single envoy is sufficient for a species of your stage. But Claire saw through the deflection. "Or maybe you're not as invincible as you claim," she said quietly, her voice laced with defiance. Servok turned to leave, ignoring her comment. He stepped back into his pod, which ascended silently into the sky. Within seconds, it was gone, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air. As the leaders debated their next move, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that Servok's visit wasn't just a warning. It was a test. The Empire was watching, analyzing their every reaction. In a secret meeting after the envoy's departure, Claire addressed the leaders. "We're being underestimated," she said, "and that's our advantage. If we can make them believe we're weaker than we are, we might buy ourselves more time." "Time for what?" asked a skeptical general. "Time to show them what humanity is truly capable of," Claire replied, her eyes burning with determination. The part ends with Claire stepping out into the desert night, staring up at the sky where the fleet loomed. She clenched her fists, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're coming for us. Fine, but don't say we didn't warn you." Humanity's gambit. The world was now a powder keg. The 7-day countdown loomed over every decision, every action. Governments scrambled to mobilize, bunkers filled with supplies, and whispers of resistance grew louder. Humanity's choice seemed binary: submit or be destroyed. But Claire Mason refused to accept either option. In the secrecy of a hidden military base, she met with a rogue group of scientists, hackers, and military strategists. Among them was an eccentric genius named Dr. Elias Vance, who had spent his life studying theoretical alien technologies. His lab was cluttered with prototypes of weapons, shields, and devices no one thought practical. Until now. Claire wasted no time. "We need a way to fight back," she said, pacing the room. "Not just survive. We need to make them think twice about ever underestimating Earth again." Dr. Vance smirked. "You're asking for a miracle," he said, tapping on a holographic display of the fleet. "Their ships are light years ahead of anything we've got. Even if we build something, it won't be enough to stop them." "Then we don't stop them," Claire said, her voice steady. "We distract them. Buy ourselves time." The room fell silent. "Time for what?" one of the military officials asked. Claire pulled up a global map highlighting a remote classified satellite array in the Arctic. "Time to send a signal." The plan was audacious. Earth's strongest radio telescopes would be linked to create the most powerful distress signal ever sent. The hope? To attract the attention of other galactic factions who might oppose the Empire. Other civilizations must have resisted the Empire before, Claire explained. If we can find them, or even just make the Empire think we found them, we might force their hand. Dr. Vance grinned. "You're banking on the galaxy having bigger bullies than these guys. Risky, but I like it." The operation, code-named Project Beacon, began immediately. Teams worked around the clock, modifying outdated satellites and hacking into dormant arrays to amplify the signal. But there was a catch. Broadcasting such a powerful signal wouldn't go unnoticed. The Empire would detect it instantly, and retaliation would be swift. "We'll be painting a giant target on our backs," Ravi Patel, now part of Claire's team, warned. "Then we'll need a distraction," Claire replied. In parallel to the signal operation, a covert military strike team was assembled. Their mission: infiltrate one of the smaller Empire ships that had separated from the main fleet. Why a smaller ship? The mission leader, Captain Sarah Drake, asked during the briefing. "Because it's less likely to have heavy defenses," Claire replied. "And if we can take control of it, we might gain intel on their fleet's vulnerabilities, or even use it against them." The plan was simple but dangerous. Using a cloaked shuttle, the strike team would approach the alien vessel, disable its engines, and board it. Success would depend on speed and precision. As the team prepared for their mission, Earth's leaders grew increasingly divided. Many saw Claire's plan as reckless, a gamble that could doom humanity faster than submission. "You're betting everything on the hope that someone will answer your signal," one world leader argued during a tense meeting. "And if no one does, we're dead." Claire stood her ground. "If we submit, we're dead anyway. Maybe not today, But eventually, the Empire doesn't conquer to coexist. It conquers to consume. This is our only chance to show them we're not prey. 3 days into the countdown, the strike team launched their mission. The world held its breath as their shuttle, cloaked in experimental stealth tech, approached the alien vessel. The boarding operation began flawlessly. The team disabled the ship's engines, cutting it off from the fleet, and breached its hull. Inside, they found something unexpected. The ship wasn't crewed by the same humanoid aliens as Sirvok. Instead, it was operated by biomechanical drones, spider-like machines with glowing red eyes. The team fought through the drones, capturing the ship's command center. As they hacked into its systems, Captain Drake made a chilling discovery. Earth wasn't just a random target. The Empire had been observing humanity for centuries, waiting for the right moment to strike. "What do they want from us?" Drake asked, scanning the data. "Resources," Claire answered over the comms, monitoring from the base. "But not just physical ones. They see us as raw material." The part ends with the strike team finding a strange, pulsating device at the heart of the ship. It wasn't a weapon. It was a transmitter, broadcasting Earth's location to the rest of the galaxy. "Shut it down," Claire ordered. Drake hesitated. "If we do, we'll lose the chance to trace who else they're sending this to. We might be able to find allies, or bigger threats." The team faced an impossible choice. Destroy the transmitter to stop the Empire from calling reinforcements, or use it to gather intel that might save humanity. As the strike team debated, back on Earth, the signal from Project Beacon was activated. A blinding pulse shot into the heavens, echoing across the galaxy. Far away, in the vast darkness of space, unseen forces stirred. The part ends with a distant response, a faint alien voice crackling through Earth's comm systems. "Who dares call for help in Empire territory?" The resistance awakens. The transmission from Project Beacon had worked. Earth was no longer screaming into the void. Somewhere in the galaxy, someone had heard their call. But whether that voice belonged to friend or foe was still unknown. The crackling response echoed across Earth's hastily assembled comms network. "Who dares call for help in Empire territory?" Claire and her team froze as they listened to the transmission. The voice was deep and gravelly, distinctly alien, but laced with contempt. Ravi hurried to isolate the signal and reply, his hands trembling. "This is Earth," Claire said, speaking into the microphone. "We are under threat from the Galactic Empire. Are you willing to help us?" There was silence for an agonizing 30 seconds before the reply came. "Help or judgment?" As Claire's team worked to decode the cryptic response, the strike team aboard the alien vessel faced their own impossible decision. Shutting this transmitter down might stop the Empire from calling reinforcements, Captain Sarah Drake said, staring at the pulsating device. "But if we trace the signal, we could find out who else they're monitoring, or who might be willing to fight them." The tension in the team was palpable. Finally, Drake made the call. "We trace it. If there's a resistance out there, we need to find it." The team's tech specialist rerouted the transmitter signal, sending data back to Earth's servers. Within moments, they found themselves connected to a sprawling network of Empire outposts, colonies, and battle fleets. But among the chaos, they spotted something else. A distant system flagged as defiant. "What does that mean?" Drake asked. "Whatever's there," the tech replied. "It's not under Empire control." Back on Earth, Claire reviewed the data from the alien ship. The coordinates to the Defiant system were a glimmer of hope, but they were far beyond Earth's reach. Before she could dwell on it, another shock came. The alien voice from earlier transmitted again, this time stronger. "Prepare to receive us. We come." "Receive you? What does that mean?" Ravi asked, panic in his voice. Moments later, Earth's satellites picked up a new object entering the solar system. Unlike the Empire's sleek and uniformed ships, this one was jagged, scared, and patched together from dozens of alien technologies. "It's not the Empire," Claire said, her voice a mixture of hope and fear. The ship descended into Earth's atmosphere, landing in the ruins of an abandoned city. Military forces surrounded it, but before they could act, the ship opened, revealing a group of alien figures, ragged, battle-hardened, and armed to the teeth. At their head was a towering reptilian creature with metallic implants fused into its body. Its yellow eyes glowed as it spoke in perfect English. "We are the exiles, enemies of the Empire. You called, and we have answered." The exiles were a motley crew of aliens from various species, all of whom had been displaced, enslaved, or betrayed by the Empire. Their leader, the reptilian Kareth, explained their plight. "The Empire destroys or consumes everything it touches," Kareth said during a tense meeting with Earth's leaders. "We were like you once, defiant, hopeful. We resisted and paid the price. Now we fight from the shadows." Claire leaned forward. "If you fight them, why haven't you defeated them?" Kareth growled, his claws scraping the table. "Because they are endless. Their fleets span galaxies, their armies are vast, but they are not invincible." Kareth revealed critical weaknesses in the Empire's operations. "Their strength lies in unity," he explained. "Their fleets communicate through quantum-linked relays. Destroy the relay, and their forces are blind, scattered, and weak." "But those relays are on their motherships," Ravi pointed out. "You're saying we need to take out the biggest ships in their fleet?" Kareth nodded. "One mothership's fall could turn the tide, but it will cost you dearly." The exiles offered to train Earth's forces, sharing knowledge of alien tactics and technology. But Kareth warned against hope. Victory will not come from strength alone. The Empire has seen countless rebellions. None have survived without sacrifice. Meanwhile, Servok, the Empire's envoy, became suspicious of Earth's delays. He sent stealth drones to monitor the planet, searching for signs of resistance. The exiles detected the drones and shot them down, but not before one escaped with critical footage of the Project Beacon signal and the exiles' arrival. "Time's up," Kareth said grimly. "The Empire knows you're not submitting. They'll strike harder now." In a desperate bid to gain an edge, Earth's military leaders authorized a joint operation with the exiles. Their target, a smaller Empire relay ship still stationed near the fleet. If they could disable its comms system, they might isolate part of the fleet and gain a brief window to strike. The operation was a mix of Earth's ingenuity and the exiles' experience. Using cloaked shuttles, the strike team infiltrated the relay ship. Kareth himself joined the mission, leading the charge through the ship's corridors. The battle was brutal. The Empire's biomechanical drones fought with ruthless precision, and casualties mounted. But Kareth's knowledge of their weak points proved invaluable. As the team reached the comms core, Kareth planted an explosive device. "This will cut their communications for a day," he said. "Use that time wisely." The part ends with Claire decoding one last signal from the intercepted relay ship. The words chilled her to the bone. "The Emperor is watching. He is coming." Kareth's growl echoed in the silent room. "You've drawn the attention of their god. Pray your defiance is worth it." Earth's first strike. The Empire's fleet loomed in orbit like an iron wall, impenetrable and unyielding. Earth's hastily assembled coalition of humans and exiles knew they had one chance to strike before the Emperor's flagship arrived. A narrow window of opportunity created by the sabotage of the Empire's relay ship. In a hidden hangar, deep beneath the Arctic ice, Claire Mason stood before a prototype craft unlike anything humanity had ever built. The exiles had named it Aegis, a hybrid vessel created by merging Earth's engineering with alien technology. Its design was crude but functional, equipped with an energy shield scavenged from an exile frigate and plasma cannons mounted on an Earth-built chassis. "This is what we've got," Claire said to the gathered strike team. "It's not perfect, but it might be enough to take out one of their motherships." Kareth, standing beside her, nodded approvingly. "Humans are resourceful. Let's see if you're as brave as your creations." The mission was clear. Target the weakest mothership in the fleet, destroy its quantum relay core, and cripple its ability to coordinate with the rest of the Empire's forces. This would give Earth a small but crucial advantage. Leading the strike was Captain Sarah Drake, who had earned a reputation for her bold tactics. "We're not here to win a war today," she told her team during the briefing. "We're here to send a message. Earth doesn't kneel." The strike team boarded the Aegis and launched under the cover of the relay ship's disrupted communications. As they ascended, Earth's people watched in collective silence, knowing this mission could determine their survival. The Aegis approached the target mothership, a massive crescent-shaped vessel bristling with weapons and pulsating with alien energy. Its size dwarfed anything Earth had ever imagined. As they drew closer, Kareth activated the Aegis cloaking system. "Their sensors are good, but not perfect. Stay quiet, and they might think we're debris." But as they neared the ship's hull, a problem arose. The Empire's drones, spider-like machines that clung to the mothership like parasites, began scanning the area. "They know we're here," Kareth growled. Drake didn't hesitate. Dropped the cloak and opened fire. The Aegis roared to life, its plasma cannons blasting through the drones. The ship swerved and twisted, narrowly avoiding incoming fire as the team fought their way toward the mothership's docking bay. Once inside, the strike team disembarked and began their assault. The corridors of the mothership were dark and eerily quiet, save for the hum of alien machinery. The exiles led the charge, their familiarity with the ship's layout guiding the humans through the maze-like interior. As they reached the relay core, they encountered fierce resistance. Empire drones poured into the room, their mechanical limbs slicing through the air with deadly precision. The battle was chaotic, with plasma bolts ricocheting off walls and explosions lighting up the darkness. Kareth fought like a demon, his metallic claws tearing through the drones. "Keep moving," he shouted, covering the team as they advanced. Claire, monitoring the mission from Earth, provided critical support. "You're almost there," she said over the comms. "The relay core is 3 levels below you, but hurry, their fleet is mobilizing." The team finally reached the relay chamber, a cavernous space dominated by a glowing crystalline structure. The relay pulsed with energy, its hum resonating through the walls. Drake set the charges, her hand steady despite the chaos. "This is for everyone back home," she said as she activated the timer. Suddenly, an enormous drone, unlike any they had seen, emerged from the shadows. It was a Guardian, a towering war machine designed to protect the core at all costs. The Guardian attacked with relentless fury, its energy cannons tearing through the team's ranks. Kareth charged at it, slamming his claws into its armored hide, but even his strength wasn't enough to stop it. Drake shouted into her comms, "We need backup. The Guardian's too strong." On Earth, Claire made a split-second decision. Activate the Aegis remote cannons. Target the Guardian. The Aegis, still docked in the mothership's bay, roared to life, firing a barrage of plasma bolts into the relay chamber. The Guardian staggered, its armor cracking under the assault. Seizing the opportunity, Kareth leaped onto the machine, ripping out its core in a final act of defiance. The Guardian collapsed, but Kareth was badly wounded. "Finish the mission," he growled, his voice weak. With seconds to spare, the team evacuated. As they boarded the Aegis, the charges detonated, destroying the relay core in a blinding explosion. The mothership, now crippled, began to collapse. The Aegis narrowly escaped the debris, streaking back toward Earth as the remaining Empire ships scrambled to regroup. On Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the successful mission spread. Humanity had struck its first blow against the Empire, proving they were more than just prey. But Claire's relief was short-lived. As she analyzed the aftermath, a new signal came through, a direct transmission from the Empire's flagship. The screen flickered to life, revealing the Emperor for the first time. His visage was monstrous, a fusion of organic and mechanical parts, his glowing eyes filled with malice. "Impressive," the Emperor said, his voice like grinding metal. "But you've only delayed the inevitable. I will handle this personally." The part ends with the Emperor's fleet beginning its final approach toward Earth, a harbinger of doom that would test humanity's resolve like never before. The Emperor's shadow. The Emperor's flagship emerged from hyperspace, a leviathan that dwarfed even the largest of the Empire's motherships. Its hull shimmered with dark, iridescent plating that seemed to absorb light, making it appear like a hole in the fabric of space. The ship was a monument to fear and destruction, and it was heading straight for Earth. Claire Mason watched the live feed from Earth's satellites, her breath caught in her throat. "It's massive," she whispered, the words barely audible. Kareth, recovering from his injuries in the command center, grimaced as he saw the ship. "That is not just a warship. That is the throne of oblivion. The Emperor's mobile fortress. Wherever it goes, annihilation follows." The Emperor's voice echoed across Earth's comms, broadcasted on every frequency, his tone cold and mocking. "Your defiance has been entertaining, but the game is over. Prepare to witness the fall of your world." World leaders gathered in an emergency council. Fear and despair filled the room as they debated their next move. "We can't defeat that," one leader said, pointing to the hologram of the flagship. "It's suicide." Kareth slammed his clawed hand on the table, silencing the room. "Giving up is suicide. The Emperor thrives on fear. If you show weakness now, he will destroy you, not out of necessity, but as an example to the galaxy." Claire stood up. "We've come too far to surrender now. We took out one of their motherships. We can find a way to stop the flagship too." "How?" another leader asked. Claire hesitated. She didn't have an answer yet. The exiles revealed that the throne of oblivion was powered by a singularity core, an artificial black hole contained within the ship. "It's the source of its strength," Kareth explained, "but also its greatest vulnerability. If we destabilize the core, the ship will collapse in on itself." Ravi, listening in, frowned. "Destabilizing a black hole? That's not a plan. It's a death wish." "It's the only chance we have," Claire countered. To execute the plan, the team needed more than brute force. They needed a way to bypass the flagship's impenetrable defenses. That's when Dr. Vance presented a desperate idea. "Remember the relay ship data we intercepted?" Vance said, pulling up schematics of the flagship. "There's a blind spot, a maintenance shaft that leads directly to the core. If we can get a small team inside, they might be able to plant an overload device." "That's a suicide mission," Kareth said. "No more than facing that ship head-on," Claire replied. The operation, codenamed Shadow Strike, began immediately. The Aegis, heavily modified for stealth, would carry the strike team into the heart of the flagship. Meanwhile, Earth's remaining defenses, bolstered by exile ships, would launch a diversionary attack, drawing the Empire's fleet away. "Everything depends on timing," Captain Sarah Drake said during the final briefing. "If we're detected too early, this mission is over before it starts." As the Aegis approached the flagship, Earth's combined forces engaged the Empire's fleet. The battle was chaos. Exile ships darted between the Empire's destroyers, their unconventional tactics keeping the enemy off balance. Earth's retrofitted fighters, piloted by volunteers, fought with unmatched desperation. But the Emperor's flagship didn't move. It loomed ominously, as if waiting for the right moment to unleash its wrath. Inside the Aegis, the strike team silently prepared for their mission. Claire had insisted on joining the team despite Kareth's protests. "This isn't just about science," she told him. "It's about survival. I need to see this through." Kareth eventually relented, joining the mission himself despite his injuries. As they entered the flagship through the maintenance shaft, the team found themselves in a labyrinth of alien machinery. The walls pulsed with energy, and the air was thick with heat. "Stay sharp," Drake whispered. "This place is alive." As they made their way toward the core, the team encountered something unexpected. Rows of pods lining the walls. Inside the pods were humanoid figures, some alien, some disturbingly human. "They're harvesting them," Claire said, horrified. "Turning them into fuel." Kareth growled. "This is the Emperor's way. He doesn't conquer for power. He consumes for immortality." The team pressed on, but the pods had triggered alarms. Empire drones swarmed the corridors, and the team was forced to fight their way forward. When they finally reached the Singularity core, they were awestruck. The chamber was enormous, with the core suspended in the center, spinning rapidly and emitting a blinding light. Dr. Vance's overload device was activated, but planting it required manual operation. "Someone has to stay behind to trigger it," Kareth said, stepping forward. "No," Claire said, her voice firm. "We've already lost too much. We'll find another way." Kareth shook his head. "You humans have given us hope, a chance to strike back at the Empire. Let me repay that debt." Before anyone could protest, Kareth leaped into the chamber, climbing toward the core with the device. As Kareth planted the overload device, the Emperor's voice suddenly echoed through the chamber. "Fools! Did you think I wouldn't see you coming?" The chamber began to shake as the Emperor himself appeared, descending on a platform. His form was terrifying, an amalgamation of flesh and machine, his body pulsing with dark energy. "You've defied me long enough," the Emperor growled. "Now you will die." Humanity's legacy. The Emperor's flagship trembled as the Singularity core began to destabilize. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the walls seemed to groan under the strain of the impending collapse. Kareth's final roar echoed through the comms as the strike team fled toward the Aegis. "Go," Kareth shouted. "Don't waste my sacrifice." Claire Mason gritted her teeth as she looked back, the chamber collapsing behind them. "We'll make it count," she whispered, clutching the small data core she had extracted from the Emperor's systems, a potential key to humanity's future. The Aegis blasted out of the flagship just as explosions rippled across its surface. The Singularity core's containment shattered, creating a violent gravitational surge that began pulling the massive ship inward. But the Emperor wasn't finished. His voice roared across all frequencies. "You think this ends here? My death will mean your obliteration." To the team's horror, the Emperor himself emerged from the collapsing flagship, encased in a shimmering energy shield. His colossal form floated in space, channeling raw power from the Singularity as it imploded. He wasn't retreating. He was preparing for a final, catastrophic attack on Earth. From the surface of the planet, billions watched in terror as the Emperor's form grew brighter, a swirling vortex of energy building around him. Earth's forces were battered, the Exiles' fleet decimated. Humanity's last hope lay in the fragmented remnants of their coalition. "This isn't just a war," Claire said, her voice trembling as she transmitted to every remaining ship and fighter. "It's a test of who we are. If we fail now, the galaxy will remember us as victims. But if we stand together, we'll be remembered as survivors." Her words sparked a desperate rally. Pilots pushed their damaged ships into formation. Soldiers readied their weapons. Civilians sent final messages of hope and love. Earth would not go quietly. The Aegis returned to Earth's fleet, carrying the last of the exiles. Ravi Patel, now at the main command center, studied the Emperor's energy readings. "He's channeling the Singularity's collapse into an attack," Ravi explained. "If he releases it, it'll wipe out Earth and everything in the solar system." Claire's mind raced. What if we turn his weapon against him? Ravi frowned. "How?" "We use the data Kareth gave us," Claire said, holding up the data core. "The Emperor's shield draws power from the same Singularity. If we overload it, the feedback could destroy him." The plan was risky, bordering on impossible. Earth's remaining forces would need to focus all their firepower on the Emperor's shield, while the Aegis delivered a modified overload device directly into the vortex. Captain Sarah Drake volunteered to pilot the Aegis. "Someone has to get close enough to deliver the device," she said. "And someone has to make sure it detonates." Claire shook her head. "You're not going alone." Drake smirked. "You're not much of a pilot, Claire." "No," Claire admitted, "but I can make sure the device works. We're doing this together." As Earth's fleet launched its final assault, the Aegis made its way toward the Emperor. Ships of all shapes and sizes converged, firing relentlessly at the shimmering shields surrounding the Emperor. The sky lit up with explosions as drones and fighters swarmed the battlefield. The Emperor's laughter echoed across the comms. "Is this all you've got? Pathetic." But the relentless barrage began to weaken his shield. Cracks formed, and the Emperor's movements became slower, less fluid. Inside the Aegis, Claire and Drake prepared the overload device. The ship shook violently as it passed through the gravitational waves emanating from the vortex. "We're almost there," Drake said, her hands steady on the controls. Suddenly, the Emperor turned his gaze toward the Aegis. He raised a massive, glowing arm, firing a beam of energy that tore through space. The ship shuddered, alarms blaring. "We're hit," Drake shouted. Claire clung to the console, her heart pounding. "Just get us close enough." The Aegis limped toward the vortex, its hull cracking under the pressure. At the last possible moment, Drake veered the ship upward, ejecting the overload device directly into the heart of the singularity. The Emperor's shield flickered violently as the device activated. Claire and Drake barely escaped in an emergency pod as the Aegis was consumed by the vortex. The overload device detonated, sending a massive surge of energy through the singularity. The Emperor's shield collapsed, and his monstrous form began to disintegrate. His final scream echoed across space as the vortex imploded, pulling him into oblivion. The battlefield fell silent. The Emperor was gone. On Earth, cheers erupted as the sky cleared. The fleet, battered but victorious, returned to orbit. Humanity had survived the unthinkable. Claire stood in the command center, staring at the smoldering wreckage of the Emperor's flagship. Kareth's sacrifice, the exile's courage, and humanity's resilience had made the impossible possible. Days later, a new signal reached Earth, not from the Empire, but from distant systems across the galaxy. Messages of congratulations, alliances, and cautious admiration flooded in. Humanity had not only survived, it had inspired others. As Claire addressed the world, her voice carried both pride and warning. "We proved we could stand against the Empire, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy knows our name now. Let's make sure they remember it for the right reasons." The camera panned to Earth's scared but vibrant surface as ships from distant factions entered orbit, some friendly, others curious. "The age of isolation is over," Claire said. "Now we show the galaxy who we are." The story closes with a final scene. Ravi working on a mysterious piece of alien tech, Drake training new pilots, and Claire gazing at the stars. Kareth's final words echoing in her mind. "Don't waste my sacrifice." Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore, it was rising.